The story begins with a girl telling someone that she had decided to remove him from their team. She said he couldn't keep up with their battles anymore. She was speaking to a boy about her age who stood there quietly. Strange black holes filled the sky behind them. The boy's name was Keiichiro. He didn't say a word at first. The girl Ku was the leader of an adventurer team called Holy Sword. She had the job class Valkyrie and was already at level 254. She asked Keiichiro if he could hear her. He simply replied, yeah. Keiichiro was a Trapmaster, but only at level 75. Instead of reacting, he said he was just remembering the first time he arrived in Tokyo. Back then it was him, Ko, and two other girls. The four of them climbed the ranks together quickly. He thought Tokyo would be full of monsters, but it turned out to be just another big city. Ko told him it was a place where people and luck came together. She then looked at him seriously and said she hadn't told the other two teammates about her decision yet. Keiichiro understood he was being removed from the team. Ko had the right to do that as their leader, but removing someone usually hurt the team's reputation. Keiichiro apologized. He said he should have been the one to bring it up. Ko told him she knew how bad he was at giving up. She had known that since they were kids. She asked him to handle the paperwork for leaving the team. She also offered to give him 25% of the team's shared money and gear, but Keiichiro turned it down. He said he had only caused trouble for the team and told her to use the money to prepare for his replacement instead. Ko stayed quiet for a moment, then said goodbye. Keiichiro did the same, saying it had been fun while it lasted. And with that, the two of them went their separate ways. Keiichiro had known this day would come. During their recent missions, he almost died every time. If the girls hadn't stepped in to protect him, just one monster's attack could have ended his life. The only reason he didn't leave earlier was because he didn't want to be apart from his friends. He understood that he wasn't as skilled as the others. People had said that ever since he was born, and it continued even after he entered the dungeon world. As he walked away, he stopped and cried quietly. What he really wanted was to stay with his friends just a little longer. And so Keiichiro was removed from the famous Holy Sword team. When he submitted some papers at the office, people nearby started gossiping. They had noticed that Keiichiro was finally kicked out of the team. Many of them still wondered why someone like him had even been part of Holy Sword in the first place. Keiichiro saw how fast people were to talk behind others' backs. His job, Trapmaster, was a rare one, but it was also the reason he was holding back the rest of his skilled team. Keiichiro knew that better than anyone. While lost in thought, he accidentally bumped into a female adventurer. He tried to say sorry, but he realized she hadn't even noticed. She was probably so strong that bumping into someone weak like him didn't even register. Keiichiro then looked up at the sky and thought about how 40 years had passed since the strange holes first appeared. Back then, the sky over Tokyo had torn open, and some people began awakening with special powers. On a nearby screen, some girls were being shown on a broadcast. They were adventurers. One of them was Ku, the leader of Japan's most famous adventurer group. Keiichiro quietly watched the broadcast while riding the train. The host talked about how Holy Sword was the first group in Japan to conquer 300 dungeons, and now everyone was excited about their next challenge, clearing the Origin Gate, a dungeon no one had ever beaten. Keiichiro remembered that the Origin Gate was one of the 7 legendary first dungeons, but now none of that really mattered to him anymore. Suddenly, he saw something strange coming from the Origin Gate. When he looked more closely, he saw a giant arm reaching out of it. Keiichiro was shocked. The arm formed a large spear-like object. He looked around at the other people and wondered why they didn't seem to notice the huge thing in the sky. Then he saw the arm pull back, getting ready to throw the spear. Keiichiro quickly warned the other passengers to get down. The spear hit the train and smashed it into pieces. After the attack, Keiichiro woke up and realized he was badly hurt. His arm was gone. He wasn't sure if the attack came from the Origin Gate, but something had clearly gone wrong. He coughed up blood. Even though he was in pain, all he could think about were the girls. He wanted to tell them what had happened, but then he reminded himself that he was someone who couldn't keep up with them. He felt sad that he hadn't stayed with them until the end, especially if he was just going to die like this. Suddenly, a girl showed up. She looked surprised and interested by what she saw. She said Keiichiro looked pitiful for someone who had been chosen, but since he was able to see the attack, she thought maybe this was meant to happen. Keiichiro asked who she was. The girl gave a playful answer, saying she might be a god or maybe even a demon. Then she asked him if he wanted something. Strange tentacles reached out, lifted Keiichiro easily, and brought him close to her. She said it was time to begin something, and without warning, she kissed him deeply. Keiichiro tried to resist, but he couldn't escape. During the kiss, a strange liquid entered his mouth. When the kiss ended, she let him fall back to the ground. She laughed and said she had given him power. She also said she didn't expect anything from him and simply told him to live however he wanted. Right then, Keiichiro felt a sudden shock in his body and stood up. But the girl was gone. Strangely, he also noticed that his injuries were completely healed. As he looked around, he saw a child still alive, stuck under some rubble. Keiichiro rushed over to help, but a nearby wall started to crack. The child shouted that the wall was falling. Keiichiro quickly used his job skills and searched for a trap he could use to get them out safely. That's when he noticed a new trap in his list called arrow symbol. He was confused because he didn't remember having that skill before. It also looked different from the other traps. Then he remembered the girl who said she had given him power, but there was no time to think about that. He placed the arrow symbol trap on the rubble holding the child. As the wall began to fall, Keiichiro grabbed the child and covered him. But instead of hitting them, the falling rubble suddenly changed direction and flew sideways, bouncing off the trap. Keiichiro was surprised. He looked at the trap and wondered if it could move things around somehow. Soon the authorities arrived. A bald man thanked Keiichiro for saving the child, but didn't believe him when he said the disaster was caused by a giant arm. The man said that if something like that had really come out of the origin gate, the whole city would already be in chaos. He claimed no one saw anything. Keiichiro tried to explain more, but the man stopped him. He told Keiichiro to leave the matter to those meant to face the gate, reminding him that he wasn't part of the Holy Sword anymore. Keiichiro realized there was no way to convince them. But even if they had believed him, what could they really do against something as huge and powerful as that giant arm? Later, in a forest near Tokyo, Keiichiro faced a monster all by himself. He believed he could still help Holy Sword in dealing with the origin gate. He was willing to do whatever it took to stand beside his friends again. He was up against a ranked D monster called the Melon Boar. The monster charged at him. Keiichiro quickly activated a trap called Slash, but the monster dodged it by running to the side. That's when Keiichiro realized the monster wasn't going to fall for his trap so easily. As a Trapmaster, Keiichiro couldn't attack directly. He could only gain experience points if monsters fell into his traps. That's why many people thought this job was weak. Still, Keiichiro didn't give up. The monster kept chasing him, but he reminded himself of all the enemies he had faced before. If he stayed calm, he could read the fight and turn things around. This time, he set the new trap, the arrow symbol. He placed it on his blocking arms and had it pointed to his right. When the melon boar charged again, the trap suddenly made it fly to the right instead of hitting Keiichiro. By chance, the boar landed right above the slash trap. A storm of blades slashed the monster and defeated it instantly. Keiichiro was surprised by how well it worked. He realized his new skill could make up for the weakness of his job. As long as he could touch the monster, he could force it into his traps. Then he noticed a small wound on his face. He wasn't used to close-range fighting and it showed, but it didn't bother him anymore. He cried quietly, not from pain but from happiness. He had finally gained something he had wanted for a long time. Just then, more monsters appeared. Keiichiro got ready. He made a promise to himself. He would keep getting stronger. Meanwhile, in another place, a girl was trying to protect a group of ordinary people. She was fighting off several monsters by herself. The men she was helping called her Ujo-sama and told her to run away on her own. But the girl, who wore heavy armor like a tank, told them to stop talking because they were distracting her. The number of monsters kept growing, and the girl had no choice but to defend herself. The regular people behind her asked her to leave them and run away. But the girl could see they were badly outnumbered, so she stayed. Meanwhile, after defeating more monsters, Keiichiro finally leveled up. He was a little surprised because it had been a long time since he leveled up by himself. He realized he had been depending on others too much. As he thought about leaving the forest soon, he heard the sound of fighting nearby. The sounds felt familiar, so he ran toward them. Ever since the first gates appeared on Earth, monsters from certain gates had slowly started to invade. Keiichiro found a nearby cave and based on the noises he could tell that someone was fighting inside. He thought the place wasn't watched, but clearly there were people inside. All he could hear were weapons hitting shields. He guessed that the people inside were attacking, which meant they might be in trouble. For now, he decided to contact the association for help, since he didn't know how strong the enemies were or how many there might be. In the worst case, he might face monsters much stronger than the ones he had just fought. He tried to wait for backup, but then he heard a weak voice calling for help. Without a second thought, Keiichiro rushed in. He told himself that running away wouldn't help him find his friends again. Even though the armor was heavy, he still wore it because he didn't know how strong the monsters were inside. To move faster, he set an arrow trap and stepped on it. The trap pushed him forward quickly, almost like he was flying through the air. Inside the cave, the tank lady kept fighting against the wave of attacks from the goblins, but she couldn't guard every direction, and one goblin managed to grab onto her. The regular people behind her couldn't do anything as the goblins pinned her down, stopping her from moving her arms and legs. One goblin raised a wooden club and aimed for her head. She braced herself, ready for the worst. Just then, the goblins holding her were suddenly thrown off as a straight blade sliced through them. She opened her eyes and saw Keiichiro standing in front of her. He asked if she needed help. She noticed that he wore high-quality gear and had moved with amazing speed. Keiichiro realized she was also an adventurer. He said he wasn't part of any rescue team, just someone nearby training and gaining experience. He told her he wouldn't take any rewards except the experience points and asked if that was okay. She said it was fine and stood up, then officially asked him for help. Keiichiro was surprised at how quickly she made her decision. He was glad they didn't have to argue over loot. He also noticed that she had been protecting the civilians by herself. The girl introduced herself as Rise Akeno and asked for his name. Keiichiro casually gave his full name in return. Aeno said there was no need to split roles, but she did mention she was a paladin. For now she wanted Keiichiro to focus on attacking while she protected the others. She then asked what his job was. Keiichiro said he was a Trapmaster, which confused her a bit. He told her he'd handle the fighting and asked her to watch over the civilians. Aeno tried to stop him, but Keiichiro was already charging at the goblins. He tried to catch them by surprise, but they blocked his blade. He decided to lure them into his traps one at a time, but that wouldn't be enough. He needed a new technique, something that could hit a wider area all at once. At that moment, Keiichiro felt like he could try something new. He placed an arrow trap and then added a slash trap on top of it. When the two traps worked together, Keiichiro realized he could actually combine his traps. He called this new idea trap fusion. Right then, the trap went off. Sharp slashes flew forward and cut through the goblins around him. The goblins were sliced into pieces, and everyone who saw it couldn't believe their eyes. They stood in silence, shocked by what they had just witnessed. Keiichiro walked over to the girl to check if she was okay. Aeno asked if he was a wizard. Keiichiro said he was a Trapmaster. Aeno was surprised because she had never heard of a Trapmaster attacking like that before. Keiichiro told her he had just tried it, and it worked. Aeno couldn't believe it was his first time doing that move. The civilians came over and thanked Keiichiro for saving them. Just as Keiichiro suggested they leave, he suddenly felt something strange. He had a feeling something else was coming and he had been expecting it. Aeno noticed his reaction and asked what was wrong. Keiichiro explained that, in his experience after fighting a big group, something even worse usually showed up. Then they heard heavy footsteps. Even Aeno understood what that meant. A boss monster appeared. It was a mighty ogre. Keiichiro started to sweat. The monster in front of him was much stronger than he was. He wondered if his traps would work on it. He quickly told Aeno to escape with the civilians. Aeno tried to stop him, but Keiichiro had already stepped forward to face the monster. The ogre seemed to understand what was happening and attacked first with a loud roar. Keiichiro said to himself that this battle would be a real test for him. The ogre swung its huge wooden club, but Keiichiro moved just in time to avoid it. Then he remembered that he could combine traps. He fused 2 arrow traps and placed his sword on top of them. When the trap activated, it launched the sword through the air. The sword hit the ogre's left leg and got stuck in it. The monster roared in pain and started smashing everything around it in anger. Keiichiro apologized to the ogre for dodging and said his defense wasn't very strong. He still had some daggers, and even though they weren't powerful, he thought they could still hurt the monster. He threw all 3 like an expert, using arrow traps to launch them toward the ogre's right leg. The ogre cried out again as the daggers hit their mark. Keiichiro saw that the monster was in pain and decided to keep wearing it down, but just then the ogre swung its club backward and got ready to throw it. At the same time, Aeno had safely led the civilians out. They tried to stop her from going back, but she rushed inside to help Keiichiro. Back in the fight, Keiichiro saw the wooden club spinning through the air toward him. He knew he couldn't move fast enough to dodge, but right before it hit, he used an arrow trap as a shield. The trap launched the club upward, saving him. He noticed the monster had thrown away its only weapon. Without wasting time, he set another trap, this time fusing an arrow trap with a fire trap. As soon as it activated, flames burst out and burned the ogre like a bonfire. Aeno arrived just in time to see the scene. She was shocked. Watching Keiichiro fight, she thought he had the speed of a rogue and the firepower of a wizard. At that moment, she realized Keiichiro was someone who could change the way adventurers saw the world. Keiichiro soon visited a well-known store called Aeno, which was Japan's biggest brand for adventure gear. While he was looking at the displays, Aeno herself showed up and thanked him for shopping there. Keiichiro thought her name sounded familiar. It turned out she was not only the daughter of the company president but also the head of that store branch. They ended up having a meal together. Aeno thanked Keiichiro for helping out the other day. She explained that they had been checking the area for valuable items, but the monsters they faced were much worse than expected. Keiichiro told her not to worry, but he was curious why someone in her position was handling bodyguard work. Aeno explained that since she had sent her team into a dangerous place, she felt responsible for protecting them. She also mentioned that she got her position mostly because of her family, so she wanted to prove herself. Keiichiro understood and thought that people probably accused her of getting her role through family connections. Aeno then explained that she wanted to talk not just to thank him but also for business. Keiichiro was surprised. She asked him to sign a sponsorship contract with her. Keiichiro was confused and wondered why she chose him. He said he wouldn't look good in ads and had no experience with public attention. Aeno explained that it wasn't that kind of sponsorship. Instead, she wanted to support his journey as an adventurer. Still, Keiichiro asked why. Aeno struggled to explain but said that she simply wanted him to become the strongest. Keiichiro was left speechless. Aeno said it was an investment, and she believed it would pay off in the future. She made it clear that she didn't plan to lose anything by supporting him. Keiichiro thought that Aeno wanted someone strong like a top-ranked adventurer, and she had placed her hopes on him. Keiichiro then admitted that he had just been expelled from his old party. Aeno asked why, and he said it was because he was too weak. Aeno called his former team blind, but Keiichiro asked her not to speak badly about them. Aeno realized her mistake and apologized, knowing it wasn't her place to judge. Keiichiro could tell that she only wanted to encourage him. Even though he had gained strength, he still felt inexperienced. Aeno then said she didn't care about his past as long as he had no criminal record. She also didn't mind if he wasn't very strong yet. In the end, she chose him because she believed he would continue to grow stronger in the future. In his mind, Keiichiro already believed that he would become stronger both in body and in mind, so he chose to accept the contract. Aeno seemed happy and then asked which party Keiichiro used to belong to. Keiichiro simply said it was the Holy Sword, which made Aeno panic. At the same time, a ninja-like girl sat on top of a dead monster, feeling worried about Keiichiro. Another girl named Kukuri said it was for the best because they couldn't keep putting Keiichiro in danger for their own selfish reasons. The ninja-like girl Yukiko agreed. Both of them were members of the Holy Sword Party. Kukuri then told Ko not to blame herself. Ko stayed quiet. Yukiko said Keiichiro should have understood why she did it. Kukuri suggested they could contact him and Keiichiro would probably still talk to them as usual. But Ku said she had already ended Keiichiro's life as an adventurer, and she didn't need his forgiveness. Kukuri noticed how serious she was about it. Then Yukiko wondered why Ku didn't just tell Keiichiro her true feelings instead of firing him. Ku froze when she heard that. Yukiko said that Ku shouldn't have tried to avoid the situation and instead should have said something like, "I wouldn't be able to live if you died." She thought maybe things would have turned out better that way. Ku, trembling, said she couldn't say something like that. Yukiko called her a difficult woman who kept hoping that Keiichiro would notice her feelings on his own. Ku felt hurt by this. Yukiko wondered how things had ended up like this. Kukuri just laughed a little but pointed out that in the end, no one had confessed their feelings. Yukiko stayed quiet for a moment before saying that Ku had her chance to be with Keiichiro, but acted too late. Kukuri added that even though it felt like it all happened just yesterday, many things had already changed and before they knew it, they were falling apart. The three of them stood in awkward silence for a while until Yukiko brought up the rumors about a plan to conquer the Origin Gate. Kukuri seemed surprised but Ku acted like she already knew. She explained that the plan had recently been shared among the leaders of the top parties. Yukiko asked when it would happen and Ku answered that it was planned for December. She also mentioned there would be an election test in the fall and if they were recognized as strong enough it would be announced publicly. Kukuri remarked that it felt sudden. Kukuri confirmed there had been a strange report at a recent train accident. Yukiko thought for a moment, then got the attention of the other two girls. She suggested that after they conquered the Origin Gate they should quit being adventurers. After that she wanted to take Keiichiro and move to a country where polygamy was allowed. The girls giggled and wondered what she was talking about. Meanwhile, Keiichiro had gone to a restricted dungeon. A maid welcomed him and confirmed that Akono had transferred the dungeon rights to him. She introduced herself as Natsume Toga and said she was currently in charge of the dungeon. Keiichiro had asked Akono for a low-ranked dungeon for himself, but he didn't expect an inspector to come along. Toga explained that she was only there to observe and wouldn't help him. Keiichiro already knew that and entered the dungeon alone. Toga wished him luck. Inside, Keiichiro started fighting monsters right away. His goal was to check the range, cooldown and other details of his new skills. After that, he planned to focus completely on battle practice. He believed that using the arrow symbols would make him stronger. If he could master them, he might be able to fight as well as someone with a fighter-type job. When he finally reached the door to the boss monster's room, he realized it was his first time going in alone. He then thought of his friends and hoped they would wait for him because he planned to catch up to them soon. Keiichiro entered the boss monster's room and saw a B-ranked goblin general. The monster quickly picked up a nearby stalagmite and threw it at Keiichiro like a spear. Keiichiro used his arrow trap to block it, but the monster kept grabbing and throwing more stalagmites again and again. Keiichiro realized the whole room was filled with the monster's weapons. He couldn't get close at all. He knew he had to find a way to get nearer and break the monster's armor with one strong attack. Another wave of stalagmites came flying at Keiichiro, but he placed an arrow trap on one of them. The trap launched him toward the ceiling and he saw a chance to fight back. He combined an arrow trap and a slash trap, and when the trap activated it cut the stalagmites around him. The broken pieces fell straight down on the boss monster. The goblin general took heavy damage, and its armor broke apart. Keiichiro saw this as his chance. He combined 4 arrow traps beside him, and they sent him back down to the ground. With a powerful slash, he cut the boss monster in half. Finally, Keiichiro caught his breath and noticed the item the monster had dropped. It was a ring, and he remembered it could boost fire attacks. Since he already had a fire trap, he figured it would be useful. For now, he decided to give it to Akono. Keiichiro left the dungeon, and Toga greeted him. Then a girl who had been lying nearby got up and looked excited to see Keiichiro come out of the dungeon, as if she had been waiting for him. Not long ago, after picking up the ring and before leaving the dungeon, Keiichiro felt like things were slowly going the way he wanted. He was definitely getting stronger. Honestly, he could have earned more experience if he had joined a team and gone to a higher level area. As soon as he stepped out of the dungeon, a cheerful girl walked up to him. She said his cloak looked nice and that it suited him well. She mentioned it was her first time seeing his gear and that she had never seen anything like it in stores. Her sudden interest made Keiichiro step back. Toga said she had already warned the girl that the area was off limits, but the girl didn't listen. The girl explained she was just curious about the kind of people who entered the dungeon. Keiichiro guessed she might be an adventurer. The girl then introduced herself as Tsukigase Sukasa and said she was 14 years old. Keiichiro was surprised because, back in Tokyo, it was rare to see someone that young working as an adventurer. It was also clear that she looked new to it all. Sukasa then asked to exchange contact information because she noticed Keiichiro seemed strong. But Keiichiro said no right away, explaining that he didn't even know her. Sukasa then proudly said she was a B-ranked assassin. Keiichiro warned her not to share that kind of information so easily, especially when they weren't even on a mission. He told her she lacked caution. Keiichiro stopped for a moment when he realized that Sukasa actually had a higher rank than he did. Sukasa asked him for help because she needed a partner for dungeon exploring. Keiichiro wondered if she had classmates who were also adventurers. But Sukasa said they didn't want to go with her since the places she wanted to explore were too dangerous for them. Keiichiro understood that Sukasa's high rank was meant to match her with stronger adventurers. He noticed how different she was from him. He asked why she didn't just explore alone. Sukasa said that she would feel too lonely. In the end, Keiichiro agreed to give her his contact info, but told her not to call him too much because he would be busy. Sukasa got really happy and they exchanged contact. She quickly checked his full name and age and then found out he was a Trapmaster. That made her even more excited, thinking about how fun it would be to explore dungeons with someone like that. Keiichiro was surprised by her reaction. Before leaving, Sukasa waved goodbye and said she would message him soon. Keiichiro thought she was like a whirlwind, fast and full of energy. Now that he was back, he planned to meet more adventurers like her. He felt lucky that people outside Tokyo didn't know who he was yet. After that, Keiichiro went to Akino's shop. She welcomed him and asked how the dungeon went. Keiichiro said he felt ready to try something a bit harder. Akino said she would get one ready for him soon. Then Keiichiro remembered he had something for her. He asked her to take a ring. Akino looked surprised and stepped back, blushing. This confused Keiichiro. Akino tried to stay calm and asked if he even knew what it meant when a man gave a woman a ring. Keiichiro realized he made a mistake. He also got embarrassed and quickly explained that he didn't mean it like that. He only saw the ring as a piece of equipment. He said it was something he found in the dungeon. Akino then asked why he gave it to her. Keiichiro wanted to say it was a gift for her as his sponsor. Instead, he told her that the dungeon felt like an important first step for him. Because of that, he wanted her to have something to remember it by. He just wanted to share the moment with her. Akino sighed and said that nothing had changed. Then she raised her left hand and asked if he was really going to let a lady put a ring on herself. Keiichiro looked surprised but helped her wear it. He then said sorry because he accidentally placed it on her left ring finger. Akino was stunned. After cleaning his weapons in his room, Keiichiro got a call from Sukasa, the girl he met earlier. He answered and told her he was busy. Sukasa complained that she couldn't reach him the whole day. Then she asked if he could join a temporary team with her the next day. She said an uncle she knew was forming a team and wanted Keiichiro to join. She also said that everyone in the group had the same rank as him. Keiichiro thought joining a temporary team to clear a dungeon sounded like a good idea, but he didn't really like working with people he didn't know. He told Sukasa that if she brought him, they might not accept her. He suggested she just go by herself, but Sukasa said no. She told him the leader was a good person and that everything would be okay. She really wanted to go with him. In the end, Keiichiro agreed to join, but only if the leader said it was okay. Sukasa thanked him and sounded excited. The next day, a man loudly said 2 words to Keiichiro. "You're in." Keiichiro wasn't sure if 2 words were enough for something so important. The man said it should be fine since Sukasa trusted him. Keiichiro asked if they were really okay with someone who worked as a Trapmaster. The group went quiet for a moment. Then the leader asked if he really was one. He said that if they were in Tokyo, it might have been a bigger deal, but at their current level, the job didn't matter much. What mattered more was that Keiichiro looked like someone honest, and that was the most important thing when trusting someone in a dungeon. He told Keiichiro not to worry. Sukasa reminded Keiichiro that she told him the group was full of good people. With that, the temporary team entered the dungeon. They went in one by one. As Keiichiro stepped inside, he felt that something wasn't right. He heard a sound and looked back at his teammates, one by one. He wasn't sure what it was, but something about the dungeon felt strange from the very start. The team quickly ran into a pack of wolves, but they worked together and fought as one. Sukasa took the lead, cutting through the monsters with skill. Keiichiro noticed how strong everyone was, especially Sukasa. She wasn't just fast, she moved without wasting any motion. For someone her age to control her body that well, Keiichiro could imagine her becoming one of the best adventurers. Then Sukasa knocked a monster in Keiichiro's direction and told him to set a trap. Keiichiro said it was already ready. Right then, the slash trap went off and cut the monster into pieces. The others were impressed. Sukasa told them to keep moving, but the leader joked that the older members needed a break. Everything seemed to be going smoothly, but Keiichiro still felt uneasy because of a strange feeling he had earlier. As they got deeper into the area, Sukasa guessed they were close to the boss monster. The leader looked around and said it was about time. Suddenly, he grabbed Sukasa by the neck. He said that even if she was strong, an assassin was useless once caught. Keiichiro tried to help her, but the other two teammates stopped him. That's when Keiichiro finally understood the strange feeling he had earlier. It was the sound of high-level gear, something he had heard many times before. He asked if their gear was disguised to look low-level. The leader was surprised and asked if Keiichiro had some kind of skill that could check gear. Keiichiro realized the truth, all three of them were actually bandits. Sukasa also figured it out. She and Keiichiro had been tricked. The bandits pretended to be the same rank as them to lure them in, but their gear was clearly top level, and they were way stronger than they pretended to be. Keiichiro asked how many people they had killed to get that kind of equipment. The leader smiled and said the disguise worked so well that even Keiichiro had dropped his guard. He claimed that a Trapmaster like Keiichiro wouldn't be able to do anything now. Sukasa couldn't believe what was happening. The bandits had been so friendly, but the leader laughed and said no one teams up unless the other person has something rare. He also said people like Sukasa always look down on others because of their rank. When he heard she was bringing someone with her, he got nervous but felt better when he found out it was just a Trapmaster. Sukasa told Keiichiro to run. She said she was strong enough to hold them off and told him to warn the others outside. The two bandits laughed, saying a Trapmaster couldn't escape on his own. They said Keiichiro was going to die too, and it was Sukasa's fault for bringing him. Sukasa started crying and apologized. She said she just didn't want to feel lonely anymore. Keiichiro was surprised, then smiled. He apologized too. He said he never planned to run. He told her the path he chose didn't let him ignore trash when it was right in front of him. The bandit leader asked what Keiichiro had just said. Keiichiro told him he had called them worthless. The leader got angry and said Keiichiro shouldn't act proud while having a low-level job. Then two other bandits rushed to attack him. Right at that moment, Keiichiro used an arrow trap. It knocked one bandit's sword away. As the bandit stood confused, Keiichiro saw an opening. He quickly placed another arrow trap on him, launching the bandit high into the air. While the bandit was helpless in mid-air, a fire trap went off below him. Keiichiro didn't stop there. He turned to the second bandit and used another arrow trap to launch 3 daggers. All of them hit the bandit's chest, and he collapsed in pain. Keiichiro called them slow and said it didn't matter if they had rare gear because in the end they were still only C-rank fighters. The leader got even angrier and slammed Sukasa to the ground, knocking her out. He became cautious, knowing that stepping on the arrow symbol could cause serious trouble. To gain the upper hand, he threw a flashbang to blind Keiichiro and went into attack. Keiichiro dodged quickly and pushed an arrow trap toward the leader, sending him flying backward. Keiichiro then said he had fought in sandstorms and even underwater before, so he never left any openings. The leader felt insulted and shouted that he would kill Keiichiro and steal all his gear. He said everything he wore had been taken from people who once laughed at him. That's how he claimed he became stronger. Keiichiro told him that it wasn't his real strength. The leader said only the strong survive and he had beaten everyone who stood in his way. But Keiichiro replied that the leader had already lost because of the weakness in his heart. Then Keiichiro charged forward and placed an arrow trap on his sword. In that instant, the sword cut straight through the bandit leader's body. Keiichiro thought that what he and the leader grew up hearing was probably not that different. He remembered the leader once telling him that the most important thing in a dungeon was being able to trust someone to watch your back. Even if it was just talk, it helped them get through a tough situation. After that, Keiichiro helped Sukasa into the tent and called for backup. He asked if any monsters showed up while he was gone, and Sukasa said everything stayed quiet while she was resting. Keiichiro was impressed by how helpful the camo cloth was. Then he watched the bandits being taken away and figured the leader wouldn't die thanks to his gear. Sukasa apologized for pulling Keiichiro into the mess, but Keiichiro said it was okay. In fact, he was thankful she invited him. Still, with their group going from 5 people down to 2, he started to wonder if they should just stop exploring. Sukasa asked if they could keep going until they truly couldn't anymore. She didn't want the day to end like that. Keiichiro felt happy seeing that she hadn't lost her spirit. He asked if she was still ready to run the dungeon with him. Sukasa said yes and felt excited again. They didn't waste any time and went back to exploring the dungeon. Hidden behind the trees was Toga. She was ready to jump in if anything went wrong, but it looked like everything was fine. Since nothing bad happened, she decided it was time to file her report. The dungeon run continued as Keiichiro easily defeated the monsters along the way. Sukasa then asked if he had a special skill. Keiichiro said he did, but he had kept it a secret at first and said sorry for not telling the truth. Since he was now showing his skill, Sukasa asked if he liked her. Keiichiro said it was just a mistake. After that, he finished off the last few monsters. They finally reached the boss monster's room, but even after going through the door, nothing looked different. There was no boss in sight. Keiichiro told Sukasa to stay alert because sometimes bosses could hide. Suddenly, both of them felt something strange and blocked an attack from behind. But when they looked around, no monster was there. Sukasa asked if Keiichiro saw anything, but he said he didn't. They had been careful the whole time, so he was sure he wouldn't miss a clear attack. He guessed the enemy couldn't be seen with normal eyes. From the way it attacked, he figured out it was a wolf-type monster that could hide. Without a doubt, the boss was a stealth wolf. At that moment, something invisible howled from the top of a rock. Keiichiro said it was calling for more wolves. Soon more of them showed up. Keiichiro explained that the boss monster was hiding and letting the other wolves do all the hunting. Sukasa wondered if the wolves would just keep showing up without end. Keiichiro said yes, and that the only way to stop it was to defeat the stealth wolf. Sukasa then asked excitedly if they were basically playing a game of hide and seek. The two split up and went in different directions. Sukasa fought her way through the wolves. Keiichiro set a trap by combining an arrow symbol with fire. The trap burned the wolves to ashes. As he attacked, Keiichiro counted his moves and thought the fight would end soon. But Sukasa noticed the wolves just kept coming. Keiichiro also had trouble reacting because the boss monster blended in so well with the surroundings. He guessed the stealth wolf was staying away from the pack. Even if they looked for it, they didn't really have a way to find it. Then Keiichiro asked Sukasa to hold off the wolves for 10 seconds. Sukasa agreed without hesitation. Keiichiro ran off and set another trap, this time combining an arrow symbol with slash traps. He had already cut down some trees and found them useful for the trap. While he did that, Sukasa kept pushing herself, moving faster and faster to fight off the wolves. At that moment, Keiichiro gave her a signal as some logs flew from behind toward her. Sukasa quickly dodged them, and the logs hit the wolf pack instead. With most of the wolves gone, Keiichiro could now focus on finding the boss monster by listening for its howl. If it howled again, he would be able to track it. But instead of howling, the stealth wolf came up behind them. Sukasa saw it, but it was too late. The monster hit her head, and she flew through the air. Keiichiro rushed to help her just in time. He was amazed that she was still standing after the hit. Sukasa said they lost the monster again. Keiichiro told her not to worry because he had a plan. When she saw Keiichiro smile, Sukasa realized she was enjoying herself. Fighting beside him felt exciting, like she might be falling in love. She started to wonder if this feeling was real. Then with a serious voice, she called out to Keiichiro and asked if he wanted to become an official team with her. Keiichiro seemed surprised. Keiichiro had never thought about joining any party other than the Holy Sword. When Sukasa suggested that they officially team up, he went quiet. He thanked her for the idea but said he needed some time to think about it. For now, they had to focus on the stealth wolf. Sukasa agreed, but then they lost sight of the monster again. She asked what they should do next. Keiichiro said he already knew where it was and asked for her help. They stayed silent and listened closely. Soon they heard something sneaking up behind them. Sukasa said he was amazing for figuring it out. Keiichiro told her the fight was about to start again, and that he was counting on her. The invisible monster tried to sneak up behind them, but it stepped on something that made a snapping noise. The sound startled it, and Sukasa reacted quickly. As the monster tried to escape, she accidentally stepped onto Keiichiro's quadruple arrow trap. It launched her like a flying arrow straight at the monster. Keiichiro couldn't follow the monster's fast movements, but he trusted Sukasa. She held her swords tight, gritted her teeth, and swung hard. She hit the monster and cut it in half. The creature disappeared as it was defeated by her quick strike. Keiichiro ran to her, excited that they had won. Sukasa didn't say anything at first. She noticed a sign that showed the dungeon was cleared. She said she had never cleared a high-level dungeon before. She was truly thankful to Keiichiro for making it happen. Later, the two of them went to see Rai and told her everything that happened inside the gate. Rai was just happy that both of them came back safely. Keiichiro was surprised to see Toga serving them tea. Toga said she was glad he returned safely. Rai explained that Toga worked as a maid when she wasn't acting as an observer. Keiichiro remembered seeing her in a maid outfit before and thought it looked strange. Toga guessed that Keiichiro thought she wore it as a strange hobby. Keiichiro quickly said that wasn't true. Suddenly, Keiichiro noticed that Sukasa was looking at him with a worried expression. She admitted she was feeling a bit nervous, but more than that, she asked if he was getting along with the others. She also reminded him that she had asked to form a party with him, but he still hadn't given her an answer. Ria overheard and asked if they were really talking about something like that. Keiichiro apologized for making Sukasa wait. He then explained that he used to be part of another party, and his main goal was to reunite with them. Because of that, he didn't plan to join a new official party. Ray told him to think it over. She said joining a party had a lot of benefits. It would help him level up faster and fight better with others. She also warned that if he kept working alone, he wouldn't learn important team skills. She pointed out that joining Sukasa could actually help him reach his goal of returning to the Holy Sword someday. Sukasa was surprised when she heard that. Keiichiro then asked Ray if she was really suggesting that he should use Sukasa's kindness even though he might leave later. But Sukasa said she didn't mind. She didn't care what would happen in the future as long as she got the chance to team up with someone like Keiichiro. She wasn't going to pass up something like that. Keiichiro was caught off guard by her honesty. He remembered how much he had learned from others in the past. He then said that if he had to join a party besides the Holy Sword, he would want it to be with Sukasa. He asked her to accept that, even if it seemed selfish. Sukasa agreed without hesitation. She told him to follow his dream, not just for himself but for her too. Rei was happy that everything had been decided. Then to everyone's surprise, Keiichiro also invited Rei to join the team. He said he was trying to let go of his doubts and asked Sukasa if that was okay. Sukasa happily said the more the better. Rei thought for a moment, then agreed. She said their team didn't have a tank so she could help with that. Sukasa cheered. She was excited to finally be at a party. It felt like her dream had come true. Rei offered to handle the paperwork and asked what the party's name should be. Sukasa said Keiichiro should decide since he was going to be the leader. After thinking for a bit, Keiichiro picked the name Vestage. He admitted that chasing the past might seem silly, but it was what motivated him the most right now. Sukasa said the name sounded cool, and Rei thought it was a good one too. Sukasa said they were called Vestage. She then asked Rei to exchange contact information since they were now friends. Rei looked at Sukasa's details, like age and other info. Her eyes grew wide when she realized Sukasa was actually a boy. Keiichiro and Sukasa smiled at each other. Rei couldn't believe someone that cute was a boy. Sukasa laughed and Keiichiro had guessed Rei wouldn't be able to tell. No worries, Rei. Even I, the recapper, didn't know. At the same time, Yukiko got a report saying that Keiichiro had formed a party by himself. She thanked Togo for the information. Togo, who was actually her senior, said she couldn't turn down a request from someone younger than her. She also said that Rei didn't even know she had been watching Keiichiro for someone else. According to Togo, Keiichiro was the only childhood friend Yukiko had shown real interest in. Yukiko asked her to keep an eye on him and ended the call. Even though Keiichiro didn't come home in the end, Yukiko felt lucky that she could still find him thanks to her connections. She felt a little sad but smiled, calling him an idiot in her mind. Still, that silly side of him was something she liked because she thought it made him really cute. From what she knew, Keiichiro wasn't strong enough yet to enter the dungeon she had just gone into. Bird-like monsters appeared out of nowhere, but with one powerful move she ended the fight right away. She used a skill called Hand of the Death God and smashed the monsters into pieces. She knew that if Keiichiro kept trying to catch up with them, they had to finish their mission before he did. Soon she met up with the other girls. Keiichiro asked if the path ahead was clear, and Yukiko said everything was fine. Yukiko wondered if she should keep the news about Keiichiro's new party a secret. She thought Q might lose focus if she found out he was teaming up with other girls. Ku told everyone to keep moving. Still, Kukuri had a strange feeling that something wasn't right. That night inside a fancy building, Keiichiro and Sukasa were getting dressed. Keiichiro was surprised by how Sukasa looked, but Sukasa said the outfit fit him perfectly because he was cute. He was wearing a cute dress, oozing with femininity. Sukasa also noticed that Keiichiro seemed nervous. Keiichiro said he had always been bad at tying neckties. He was simply implying that he was not used to public parties. Then they met up with Rei, who was also dressed up nicely. She asked if they were ready. After checking that everything was set, the three of them headed out to fight in their party's first battle. A raid battle happened when many groups teamed up to take on a hard dungeon together. Sukasa looked around and was amazed by the number of people. He asked if there were always this many parties. Keiichiro said it was because someone important helped organize the event. A woman named Kiryu and Jessica stepped forward and welcomed everyone. She seemed happy with how the event turned out. She was the one who organized the raid. Keiichiro mentioned that she looked young. Sukasa felt that she gave off a different vibe, like she wasn't from around there. Rei said that even though Jessica seemed cheerful, she was actually a witch with a lot of potential. Keiichiro thought Jessica was the one hiring them, but Rei explained that it was actually Jessica's father. Sukasa then asked if they were getting paid. Keiichiro confirmed it. Since the goal was to beat a high-level dungeon, they needed strong adventurers. He explained that raid battles had lots of people, so it was possible to let a few less experienced ones join in safely. That's why they were offering good pay to bring in better adventurers than usual. This helped the organizer reach their goal while also giving others the chance to earn rewards and gain experience in a tough area. It was a win for everyone. Sukasa understood how it worked but felt it was a bit unfair that Keiichiro was joining, since he had already cleared an S-rank dungeon. Keiichiro didn't like to brag though. He said he was just carried by Japan's top adventurer group. He had even asked Rei earlier to sign up their team Vestage when she went to register. Jessica walked up to the podium and said it was nice to meet so many great adventurers. But even though she was thankful, she admitted that they had accepted more people than they expected. She announced that the next day there would be a selection test to choose who could join the raid. The test would be one-on-one duels. Out of everyone who showed up, only 20 people would be chosen. Sukasa was surprised to hear that some people would be sent home. Keiichiro, however, said this kind of thing happened often. Sukasa took the news seriously and decided to eat as much as he could while he had the chance. Meanwhile, Rei left to walk around and greet other people. Keiichiro stayed behind and looked around the room. He started to feel a bit nostalgic but still left most of the socializing to Ku. He also worried that being kicked out of Holy Sword might cause problems. He hoped no one would recognize him or bring it up. When he went to get food from the buffet, Keiichiro saw a girl who looked worried. She was wearing a school uniform, so he guessed she was a student. She seemed nervous and kept saying she had to join the raid. In her panic, she accidentally hit a plate while turning around. Keiichiro rushed to help her and their heads accidentally bumped into each other. Somehow he managed to catch the plate and the food before anything spilled. The girl realized what happened and quickly said sorry. Keiichiro asked her to calm down and wanted to know why she was so anxious. The girl explained that she was a wizard and needed to be part of the raid, but she wasn't good at duels. Keiichiro understood. He said that many support fighters like rearguards struggled with duels. He was one of them too, but he reassured her that not all of the people who lost would be sent home. He explained that the organizers were looking for people who were the best fit for the raid. If someone could show what they were good at, they still had a chance even if they didn't win the duel. He advised her to team up with someone who could help her show off her skills. He told her not to stress too much and just give it her best shot. The girl finally calmed down and thanked Keiichiro. He wished her good luck. Even though he gave her advice, Keiichiro knew that as a C-rank Trapmaster he might struggle in the duels too. While the event was happening, Jessica saw Ray and quickly ran over to her, happy to see her friend. Ray told Jessica she did a great job organizing the event. Jessica felt even better knowing Ray came, since she was the only friend she had nearby. Ray said it was Jessica's time to shine, and of course she would be there to support her. But Ray also noticed that Jessica's hands were shaking. She gently asked if Jessica was nervous, like a caring older sister would. Jessica told Ray to stop treating her like a child and reminded her that the company would soon be hers to lead. When that time came, they would be equals. Ray simply laughed and agreed. Jessica then looked over at Keiichiro, and Ray looked too. Jessica said she had accepted Keiichiro because Ray had recommended him, but she questioned if it was really okay to bring a Trapmaster on a raid. Ray didn't answer right away, she just looked at Jessica and teased her, saying she didn't really understand how valuable Keiichiro was and called her a kid again. Jessica quickly snapped back at her. The next day, Jessica was shocked. She saw Keiichiro, a Trapmaster, win a duel without even trying hard. Keiichiro had wanted to keep his arrow symbol a secret, but he ended up using it to win the match. He hoped no one saw it. Some adventurers even scolded the loser for being beaten by a Trapmaster. Jessica, now impressed, finally admitted with pride that Keiichiro wasn't bad at all. The raid commander Hyudu, who was behind, noticed Keiichiro's strange attack and wondered what it was. Sukasa then called out to Keiichiro, claiming that he had an easy win and asking for praise. Keiichiro said Sukasa had done well. They then decided to watch Ray's match and Sukasa cheered for her. He hadn't seen Ray fight before, only knew she was a paladin. Keiichiro also mentioned that he hadn't seen her fight much either. To their surprise, Ray was facing someone familiar. Keiichiro was shocked. The audience talked about how the duel would be a contest of strength between a wizard and a paladin. Ray was up against the student Keiichiro had helped the previous night. Even though she was a wizard, she had a bow. As the referee signaled the start of the duel, the girl started repeating Keiichiro's words about putting on a good show in her head. She lifted her bow, but Ray couldn't see any arrows. Ray quickly understood what was happening. As the girl pulled the string back, she gathered magic power in her fingertips. The whole bow glowed with magic, and an arrow made of magic appeared. At the same time, her magic power overflowed from her body, surprising everyone watching. Sukasa worried that Ray wouldn't be able to block such an attack. Keiichiro regretted giving out advice. Ray braced herself, thinking she could dodge the attack. However, she wanted to show the dignity of a tank. She raised her shield just as the magic arrow flew toward her. Despite the huge explosion, Ray stood her ground, blocking the attack and showing her toughness. Sukasa cheered for her. The girl then ran around the arena trying to get past the shield. As she came closer, Ray realized that the real match was about to begin. But at that moment, the referee stopped the duel. Hyudu announced that both of them had passed the selection. Sukasa was surprised that it only took that much for them to be evaluated. Keiichiro said things could have turned out badly but pointed out that the girls had already shown enough to pass. Later, after taking a shower and leaving Sukasa behind, Keiichiro met the student from before in the hallway. She thanked Keiichiro for his advice. Keiichiro told her she was strong and said it was reassuring to have someone powerful like her as an ally in the dungeon. He was happy she could show off her strength. The girl introduced herself as Usui Toru. She offered to give Keiichiro something as thanks, but he asked her not to. As they talked, Keiichiro noticed an accessory hanging on Toru's bag. When he looked closer, he saw it had Yukiko's face on it, along with pins that also had Yukiko's image. Keiichiro was shocked and called out Yukiko's nickname, Yuko. Toru was upset and asked if he had just said Yukiko's name. She told him he couldn't do that. She explained that only close friends could call Yukiko by her special nickname. Toru pulled out a book and showed Keiichiro page 57 of the special Holy Sword report, where it was written that only close friends could use the nickname. She was impressed that Keiichiro knew about it and thought he was also a fan. But she reminded him to respect the wishes of idols. She warned him not to use Yukiko's special nickname. Keiichiro then realized that Toru was a fan of Holy Sword's Yukiko. Keiichiro told Toru that even if she wanted him to stop calling Yukiko Yuko, he couldn't help it. He was the one who came up with the nickname, and it had just become a habit. Toru asked what he meant and Keiichiro suddenly got nervous, realizing he had said too much. Just then Sukasa showed up and called out to Keiichiro. Hearing his name made Toru remember something. She recalled a rumor that Yuko's nickname came from her childhood friend. It was never mentioned in interviews and Yuko had only told one fan in person by chance. Toru then realized that Keiichiro was actually the secret fourth member of the group Holy Sword. Keiichiro felt embarrassed when he heard that title. He tried to explain that there were reasons behind everything. Toru was shocked to learn that Keiichiro had been kicked out of the team. Toru, it felt like a big scandal involving Holy Sword. Hearing that word made Keiichiro look sad, and Sukasa asked him not to act that way so suddenly. Then Rei arrived and asked if Keiichiro was trying to impress Toru. Sukasa joked that Keiichiro was actually being exposed. Keiichiro didn't deny being expelled, but he asked Toru not to tell anyone. He said he didn't want to bring more problems to his former team. Toru understood. She knew people wouldn't leave Keiichiro alone if they found out who he really was. She quickly agreed to keep it a secret, and Keiichiro thanked her. But then Toru's inner fangirl came out. She asked if Keiichiro had any personal photos of Yukiko. Keiichiro looked through his phone and found one from when Yukiko was still in elementary school. Toru got excited and called it a rare picture. Keiichiro had heard that Yukiko had a lot of intense fans, but meeting one in real life felt strange. The group was staying in a hotel at the time. Sukasa said it was his first time staying at a place near a dungeon and guessed it must have been expensive. Rei explained that the hotel was owned by the Kiryuin family and was actually more welcoming than people thought. She said Jessica had arranged everything as part of her studies. Sukasa was surprised to hear that Jessica was getting such a special education. Suddenly some guys peeked over their table and asked if they were looking at a picture of a girl. They were surprised to see someone from the Holy Sword Guild. Keiichiro got nervous, but Toru quickly stepped in and said she was just trying to recruit him. She showed them her bag full of fan merchandise. The others were shocked at how much she had, but Toru simply said this was what she loved doing. Somehow they managed to avoid revealing Keiichiro's secret. Tsukasa told them to stop or they might get caught next time. Keiichiro thanked Toru for helping him. Then Tsukasa asked Toru to talk with them more and guessed they were the same age. Toru said she had just turned 14 and Tsukasa said he was 14 too. Rei asked if Toru always worked alone. Toru explained that she lived far away and only joined groups when big raids happened, like the one they were preparing for. Tsukasa was surprised to see someone his age taking things so seriously. Keiichiro warned them that high-level areas like the one they were going to were full of danger. Toru said there was one item she had to get no matter what. It was called the Blue Elixir. Keiichiro said it was a really rare drop. Tsukasa asked how rare it was. Rei answered that the cheapest one ever sold cost 1 billion yen. Keiichiro figured there had to be a serious reason Toru wanted it. Rei asked if someone close to her was sick. Toru said it was her mother. Her mom couldn't walk anymore and doctors said there was nothing they could do with current medical technology. Toru was saving money, but getting the item would be the best chance to help her mom. Keiichiro realized that was why Toru was so determined to join the raid. Toru thanked Keiichiro and said it was because of his advice. After that, the group said goodbye to Toru. Sukasa realized there were many different kinds of adventurers out there. Keiichiro remembered that Toru said Yuko was one of her reasons for living, and it made him happy to know his old teammate was helping someone like that. He didn't want to fall behind and told his team to give their best in the raid. The next day, the raid leader announced that the raid was about to begin. Everyone was ready, especially Keiichiro, his team and Jessica, who stayed close by. The raid took place in a dungeon that looked like something from ancient Egypt. As soon as they entered, a battle broke out. The tanks told Keiichiro they were sending the monsters his way and asked him to set up traps. Keiichiro followed their instructions quickly, and the monster was destroyed right away. The raid leader reminded everyone to stay alert and not wander off. A healer offered to treat some of the injured players. Others said things were going smoothly, but Keiichiro looked unsure. So far they had faced the Statue of Heaven's Fall, Murder Mebius, and Whispering Maris. Keiichiro thought that was strange. At the back of the group, Sukasa cheered for Keiichiro and looked eager to join the fight. But Rei told him to wait because the plan was for the front team to handle everything until they reached the boss monster's room. That meant Sukasa and the others had to save their energy for the final battle. Sukasa understood. Then the raid leader called out to Keiichiro and told him to slow down and save his strength for the boss. Keiichiro replied that he wasn't part of the main team, but the raid leader didn't believe him. He said he knew Keiichiro was strong and didn't mind if he was keeping some of his skills secret. He even said that if Keiichiro weren't already a Trapmaster, he would have placed him in the main party. Keiichiro was surprised that he was being trusted so much, so he asked the raid leader to send the tanks from the main team into the front lines as soon as they entered the boss room. The raid leader was unsure. He said it was normal for the first team to take the opening attack so they could learn about the enemy. He asked Keiichiro why he was suggesting a change. Keiichiro said he just had a bad feeling. Usually dungeons had a certain theme, like wolf monsters or fire monsters, but the monsters they had fought so far didn't seem to follow any pattern. Keiichiro couldn't guess what kind of boss would appear next, and he worried it could be something very dangerous. The raid leader stayed quiet for a moment, then said that Keiichiro had a good point but he couldn't do what Keiichiro asked. He reminded him that Jessica was with them, and if there was danger ahead, that was an even bigger reason to keep their main tanks safe for later. Keiichiro understood. It made sense that the leader was putting their employer's safety first. Still, he had a strange feeling, like he was missing something. He wondered if he could figure out what it was. Then an adventurer shouted that they had found the boss monster's room. Everyone walked in together. Sukasa said the place looked scary. Keiichiro agreed. This wasn't the kind of place he could handle alone. The group stayed alert, ready for anything. Suddenly, something dropped down from the ceiling. To their shock, a giant praying mantis stood in front of them. The group quickly moved into formation. Keiichiro recognized the monster right away. A tank stepped forward to protect everyone, and Keiichiro tried to warn him to dodge. But it was too late. The mantis swung its sharp blade, cutting through the tank's shield, gear, and even his body. Blood sprayed into the air. From the back, Jessica saw the blood fly. It was the first time she had ever seen something like that. She and everyone around her stood frozen in silence. Keiichiro couldn't believe he hadn't noticed it earlier. Every monster they had faced so far had really strong attacks. The boss monster standing in front of them was the same. It had just sliced someone in half like it was nothing. Jessica froze as she watched the blood fly through the air. Everyone panicked. For most of them, it was the first time they had seen someone die during a raid. The raid leader tried to tell everyone to run, but then he saw that the monster had already blocked the only way out. The boss started moving again, ready to attack. Keiichiro ran to Rei and told her to move forward. The raid leader tried to stop them, but Keiichiro explained that the monster was called the Death Mantis. It used its sharp blades to strike anyone nearby. If no one stayed close, it would randomly attack others, and more people could die. They didn't have enough tanks left to protect the group. Just then, smaller Death Mantis creatures started rushing in. One of the tanks quickly jumped in to block the swarm. Keiichiro remembered the plan they had used before. 2 tanks were supposed to block each of the monster's arms while the rest of the group stood behind them in formation. But they had just lost one of their tanks and now they were outnumbered. Keiichiro decided to handle one side himself and activated his arrow trap skill. He warned that the Death Mantis had a very strong attack and he wasn't sure if Rei's shield could hold up against it. He asked if she was ready to go along with his plan. Rei gave a confident answer, showing she trusted him. Keiichiro began to lead her to the front lines, but Jessica stepped in and tried to stop her. She didn't want her only friend to go, afraid she wouldn't come back. Rei simply smiled and walked away, leaving Jessica behind. With Rei now fighting beside him, Keiichiro challenged the Death Mantis head-on. The giant monster quickly swung one of its sharp blades at him, but thanks to Keiichiro's arrow symbol, the attack was pushed away. At the same time, the other blade went toward Rei. She tried to block it with her shield, but she felt how strong the hit was. Keiichiro understood her struggle after all. The Death Mantis had the strongest attack power of any A-ranked monster. If he didn't have the arrow symbol to help deflect the blows, he would have been seriously hurt or worse. The other adventurers watched in awe as just 2 people stood their ground against the powerful monster. One of them finally snapped out of it and told the others to support from a distance. Encouraged, the rest started firing long-range attacks to help. The raid leader noticed that Keiichiro, even while defending, seemed to be enjoying the fight. He quickly ordered the healers to keep healing them without stopping. Keiichiro and Rei gave it their all to protect the others, but it was clear they couldn't hold out forever. Then, like a sudden gust of wind, Sukasa rushed in and knocked away one of the monster's blades with his sword. He distracted the Death Mantis for a moment. The monster tried to strike back, but Sukasa was fast and dodged the attack. Everyone cheered for him. Another strike came. He dodged again, but this time he lost his balance when he landed. Smaller monsters began closing in on him. Just in time, Toru appeared and saved him before they could reach him. Keiichiro felt a quick wave of worry but was relieved to see Sukasa safe. The other adventurers jumped in to help defend Sukasa from the smaller enemies. Toru asked if he was okay. Sukasa thanked her, surprised that she had used stealth to get there without anyone noticing. Keiichiro couldn't believe what he had just seen. A wizard using an assassin-type skill. He had never heard of anything like that before. He wondered if it was because Toru looked up to an assassin like Yuko. Then Keiichiro called out to Toru. He said he would try to stop the Death Mantis's arms for a short while, and when he did, he wanted Toru to get close and cast a spell from inside the monster's shell. The other adventurers realized that Keiichiro wanted Toru to use her stealth skill to sneak up on the monster. They shouted in worry, saying it was too dangerous. If Toru messed up, she could get hurt. But Toru didn't look scared. She looked serious and calm. She said she trusted Keiichiro because he was a good person. Keiichiro couldn't say anything back. Then Toru used her stealth skill and vanished from sight. The other adventurers, feeling inspired, stood beside Keiichiro to help. Keiichiro told them not to die on him. The Death Mantis kept attacking. Keiichiro timed his move just right and used his arrow symbol to make the monster hit the ground with its blade. The other adventurers worked together to hold the monster's arm down. Keiichiro added 4 more arrow symbols to his sword and helped them pin it down. He shouted for Toru. Right then, Toru appeared under the mantis's arm. She pulled back her magic arrow and fired a strong, explosive shot. The blast was so powerful that it blew the monster's arm off and sent Toru flying backwards. Seeing the monster's arm on the ground, the adventurers cheered. Their spirits lifted, knowing only one arm was left to take down. But just then, the death mantis crushed Rei's shield and knocked her to the ground. Everyone saw she was now defenseless, and the monster raised its last blade for a final strike. In a panic, Keiichiro used an arrow symbol on the ground to fly forward, but suddenly his body felt heavy. He realized he had reached his limit. Sukasa also couldn't react in time. Keiichiro could only watch as the blade came down toward Rei's face. A loud crash echoed through the area. Everyone feared the worst. But standing in front of Rei was Jessica, crying as she held up her magic staff. She had managed to create a barrier just in time to protect her friend. Rei was shocked by the rescue. Jessica, with tears in her eyes, said she wouldn't let anyone else die. She poured all her magic into her staff, so much that it pushed the monster's blade back and broke her staff in the process. After Jessica blocked the monster's blade, the other adventurers saw a chance to destroy its last arm. Sukasa quickly used his skill called Shadow Stitch to hold the death mantis by its shadow. He warned that the skill would only last a short time. Toru then pulled out her magic arrow. Even though she could feel that she barely had any magic left, she still hoped her shot would work. She fired at the monster's remaining arm and blew it in half. Now both arms were gone, and everyone saw it. They didn't hold back anymore. Their only goal now was to defeat the death mantis once and for all. Jessica and Rei stayed back and watched. Keiichiro rushed to Rei to see if she was okay. Rei told him she was fine, and Keiichiro felt so relieved that he almost cried. Rei then turned to Jessica and thanked her for saving her. Jessica held her broken staff and blushed. A nearby healer also praised Jessica. Then someone told them to step back because the others could take care of the rest. Right then, the death mantis finally collapsed and died. Everyone looked at the body, wondering if the fight was really over. Suddenly, the death mantis's children appeared and gathered around the body. They started eating their parent right in front of everyone, almost like putting on a strange show. Sukasa couldn't believe what he was seeing. Keiichiro figured out that the young mantises were eating their parents so they could grow into adults. Everyone was shocked. The raid leader told everyone not to give up. Since the monsters weren't growing very fast, it was the best time to wipe them out before they got stronger. So the group charged forward, defeating every small death mantis in their way. Rei realized they couldn't relax yet. She said they just needed one more strong attack, then brought out her spare sword. Jessica stood up too and grabbed her extra wand. Keiichiro watched as both of them joined the battle. Toru ran over and asked if he was also out of mana. Keiichiro said he couldn't make any more traps. Toru told him to take her mana even though she didn't have much left. She said this would be their final attack together. Keiichiro joined the fight and faced a medium-sized death mantis with only his sword. He couldn't use his arrow symbol anymore to defend himself, but he was sure he wouldn't miss his strike. He jumped at the monster and stabbed it in the head. It was a clean hit, and the monster was defeated in one blow. The other adventurers quickly searched for more monsters, but instead of more enemies, something else showed up. A huge portal appeared in the center of the room. When they saw the gate had opened, everyone cheered. They had finally cleared the dungeon. Exhausted, Keiichiro let out a deep sigh. Sukasa looked happy. Toru collapsed onto the ground. Rei smiled, and Jessica cried beside her. The healers led the way outside. Saying it was a miracle they all made it out alive. Well, almost everyone. They held a ceremony for the fallen tank. Rei showed Jessica how it was done. One of the adventurers stood next to Keiichiro and thanked him for being there. They would carry the tank's body back, at least to return him to his family. That was the last thing they could do for a fellow adventurer. Keiichiro said he was the only one who knew about the death mantis. He felt guilty for not realizing the dungeon's theme sooner. If he had just admitted that he used to be part of Holy Sword, maybe he could have convinced the raid leader to prepare differently. But he still wasn't sure if anything would have changed. The adventurer next to him said everyone did their best and that only a god could have changed the outcome. Still, Keiichiro believed the girls from his old team would have found a way to handle things better. They wouldn't have let their teammates get into so much danger. He realized he had almost let something terrible happen. Deep down, he knew he was still weak. Just when Keiichiro was thinking about how he could catch up with the girls, a folded piece of paper that looked like a shikigami appeared beside him. It moved slightly, as if trying to point him towards something nearby. When he looked, he saw someone standing behind a tree. It was someone he knew, and he was too shocked to say anything. It was Kukuri. She looked at him and smiled. Keiichiro was surprised to see her and stuttered his words. Kukuri asked him to stay quiet and to follow her. She said she could tell he looked troubled and wanted to talk. They walked to a quiet place, away from others. There, Kukuri asked if someone had died. She said that no matter how many times it happened, she could never get used to it. She knew Kukuri felt the same way. At that moment, Kukuri realized he hadn't seen her since he was expelled. He quickly apologized for leaving without saying goodbye. Kukuri smiled but said she was still mad about it. She knew how he was getting the wrong idea, or maybe just feeling awkward. Kukuri didn't say anything. Kukuri said she didn't have much time, so she got straight to the point. She told him that the first attempt to open the origin gate would happen this coming winter. Keiichiro was shocked. The girls were finally going to do it. Kukuri paused, then explained there would be a selection test in the fall to choose which parties would go with them and support the mission. Only A-ranked parties could join. She told him to hurry if he wanted to take part. Keiichiro looked serious. Kukuri said she had to go soon. She had only sneaked out to see him and didn't want the other girls to find out. Keiichiro asked why she was telling him all of this. Kukuri said she didn't really know, maybe she just wanted him to stay safe, or maybe she was just happy to see him working hard. Either way, it made her glad. Keiichiro was touched by her words. He apologized again for not seeing them after his expulsion. He admitted he had been too scared to face her, but now he promised not to run away anymore. He promised to grow stronger, strong enough to stand by her side. He meant it. Kukuri looked happy. She could tell Keiichiro felt more cheerful. She was glad she got to see him and looked forward to the next time. Keiichiro stood there feeling a new sense of purpose. Somewhere else, the girl who had given Keiichiro his new powers watched them. She smiled to herself. She liked kids who didn't know how to give up. Then she wondered, was it time to choose the next one? What was she planning? 2 days later, Keiichiro finally came out of his room after resting the whole time. He greeted the girls and Toga asked if he was feeling better. Keiichiro said he was, and thanked them for helping him recover. He then asked why using healing magic made him feel even more tired. Rei agreed that it felt that way too. Toga mentioned that her lady Rei also seemed tired after the last mission, but Keiichiro didn't believe it. He said Rei looked stronger than ever. Rei replied that she just didn't show her weakness easily. Keiichiro went quiet for a moment, then he said he had something important to talk about, now that things had calmed down. He also wanted Sukasa to be there for the conversation, but he wasn't sure if Sukasa was awake yet. Rei didn't know either, but she wasn't too worried about him. Toga shared that she had heard this was the first time someone on Sukasa's team had died. Rei agreed. She said that while death was something that came with the job, it was still hard to accept. A little later, Sukasa showed up, smiling and thanking Keiichiro and Rei for coming all the way to his hometown. Keiichiro asked how he was feeling, and Sukasa said he was fine. Keiichiro told him not to push himself. He shared that when it first happened to him, he had stayed in bed for days. Sukasa knew Keiichiro was trying to make him feel better, so he thanked him, but still said he was okay. The three of them sat down to talk. Keiichiro brought up the origin gate, and what was about to happen with it. Sukasa was surprised because he had only read about it in books. Rei remembered that no one had ever thought about going inside it until the top-ranked team Holy Sword showed up. Keiichiro explained that conquering the origin gate had always been Holy Sword's dream, and when the girls decided to take on that challenge, he wanted to be with them no matter what. Sukasa said Keiichiro could probably join them if he got chosen to fight alongside them, so he asked him not to look so down. But Keiichiro said this was something he needed to talk about seriously. If their team Vestage got picked to take part, they wouldn't just go to Tokyo, they'd go inside the origin gate. He warned them that it would be more dangerous than anything they had faced before. Their last mission had reminded everyone that dungeon diving could cost lives. Keiichiro wanted them to really think about that. He asked if they still wanted to move forward with him or go a different path. Even though their team was new, Keiichiro said their answer would decide everything. If they weren't ready, Vestage would have to break up right then and there. There was a moment of silence before Sukasa spoke up and said he would go. He explained that he had made a promise and he and Keiichiro were supposed to explore the world of adventurers together. He said he couldn't back out now. Keiichiro looked nervously at Rei. She explained that this event could become part of history and might be a great chance for her family. When she chose to support Keiichiro, she believed he had something special. It was a risk, but she thought it was worth it. So she asked him to take the chance with them. After hearing them, Keiichiro thanked them. He admitted the journey would be dangerous, but he promised he wouldn't let any of them die. Rei and Sukasa smiled. Then Rei remembered that their current goal was to become an A-ranked party. Sukasa asked how a party could reach that level. Keiichiro explained that the leader first needed to be an A-ranked adventurer. Rei added that the team also needed to successfully clear a high-ranked dungeon together. Sukasa wondered if the three of them could handle such a dungeon. Keiichiro wanted to say yes, but he knew it would be tough. He said that clearing one with a full raid party like they had recently done was one thing, but doing it with a smaller balanced team would be much harder. He said they especially needed someone to handle the rear, a rear guard. Since they planned to go to the origin gate, Rei said they couldn't just choose anyone for the role. The group stayed quiet for a while, then Sukasa said she had someone in mind. Keiichiro said he did too. Rei suggested they all say the name at the same time. Without planning it, they all said the same name, Asui Toru. At the same time, Toru was on a phone call with the raid leader thanking him for sharing the list of items they got. But once again, the blue elixir wasn't on it. She also thanked Hyudu for letting her join the raid since she didn't often get the chance to take part in such big events. Hyudu said they were always happy to have strong players like her join. Hyudu hoped they would invite her again in the future. Then Hyudu mentioned that some members of a group called Vestage wanted to meet her. He asked if he could give them her contact information. Toru didn't know who Vestage was, but she allowed Hyudu to share her phone number. She also told him to let them know she was in the hospital in case it was something urgent. After the call ended, Toru wondered what they wanted from her. Just then her uncle showed up and she asked how her mother was doing. Her uncle said her mother had just fallen asleep and seemed to be feeling better that day. Toru felt relieved and asked him to keep watching over her mother. Her uncle then asked if she was going back again, and Toru said yes, she needed to find a cure for her mother. He went quiet for a moment, then asked her to stop being an adventurer. Toru was shocked and didn't know what to say. Her uncle had heard that someone died during her last mission and felt guilty for letting her get into danger just to help his little sister. He said she should be spending her time making friends, not risking her life. He didn't want to see her suffer. Hearing the word suffer made Toru feel uneasy. She tried to say something back, but instead she apologized and walked away. Her uncle tried to stop her, but she left. At that moment, Keiichiro and the others arrived outside the hospital. They saw Toru running toward them, asking to get in the car while her uncle followed behind. Everyone quickly got in and the car drove off, leaving Toru's uncle standing there surprised and confused. Toru thanked everyone. Keiichiro asked if she was really okay with what she was doing. Toru promised that she would talk to her uncle properly next time. She believed he would understand because deep down she knew he was a kind person. Later at a park, Toru sat down to eat her cheap lunch, just a rice ball. While eating, she listened to the group's plan to join the challenge of conquering the Origin Gate. Keiichiro understood that it was a serious mission, so he told her to take her time before deciding. Toru stopped eating and shared something personal. Her father made the rice balls for her. She said he was amazing because he did all the housework and worked long hours every day. He also loved her mother deeply. Toru didn't see dungeon diving or adventuring as a bad thing. For her, it was a way to help her mother, and she was willing to accept any help to do that. She then asked Keiichiro to let her join Vestage. She wanted to enter dungeons with them in Tokyo, even the Origin Gate. She believed that, somewhere along the way, she might find the blue elixir. Keiichiro thought about how every adventurer had someone who cared about them. They carried those feelings into every battle. He felt a strong sense of responsibility because of that. So he asked Keiichiro to come with them. He also told her that finding the blue elixir was one of their goals. Keiichiro promised her they would help bring it back to her mother safely. Churro smiled and bowed. She said she was excited to work with them. After Churro joined Vestage, the scene shifted. A woman was shown defeating a monster all by herself. But she didn't look happy, she seemed bored. The fight had been too easy. Suddenly, she got a notification about her A-rank license renewal. She was surprised that it was already time for that again. She grumbled about how annoying it was to spar for the renewal and how far the association branch was. Living far from the city didn't help either. On top of being an adventurer, she had to help her grandmother with chores. She sighed and said she wanted to move to Tokyo already. But who is this rough one, Isan? Could she be the next person to join the party? Meanwhile, Ku and the other girls came back from their cleanup task. She shared that their group had cleared a large part of the wild area in northern Kanto. A man thanked them and was happy that the monsters were now more likely to stay behind the gates. He was glad he could finally spend time with his grandson. Yuko was surprised that the president was already an old man. The president then looked toward the Origin Gate. He said it was time to strike the core. He couldn't believe the moment to explore the Origin Gate had finally arrived. He also remembered the day that strange thing appeared over Tokyo. Ku, who had been listening quietly, asked if it was true that the other gates would close if they took control of the Origin Gate. The president said he wasn't sure, it was only a guess. But he did know that the energy leaking from the gate was affecting the space around it. He admitted that he was asking them to take a risk with no guarantee of success. Ku said they were willing to do anything that could help people. The president thanked them and promised to support them however he could. He also said they had announced they were looking for more supporters. Ku mentioned she hadn't checked yet how many would join. The president said the numbers weren't clear. Then Kukuri told everyone not to worry. She believed people would come by fall. Ku simply stared at her without saying anything. Meanwhile, Keiichiro was driving with Toru to a certain place. He said sorry for making her come along, but Toru said it was okay because she also needed to renew her license. Keiichiro said it was helpful to have someone who knew the area since he had never been to the Hokuriku branch before. They arrived at the Adventure Association's Hokuriku branch and went inside. Toru asked for a B-rank license renewal. The receptionist told her to go to the ability testing room. Then it was Keiichiro's turn. He said he wanted to take the A-rank exam. The receptionist was surprised because she had never seen a Trapmaster aiming straight for A-rank without going through B-rank first. She checked his stats and saw that he already reached the recommended level. Keiichiro thought it was because of all the experience points he got from the recent raid. The receptionist asked if he had ever used the arena for high-ranked duels, and Keiichiro said he had used it a few times. She then told him where to go next and explained that he needed to win 3 battles in a row to skip a rank. Keiichiro went to the training room. He was told he could only enter once a day, so he had to come back for at least 3 days. Since he was taking the A-rank exam, he expected to fight either a real A-rank adventurer or another person trying to pass the exam. For now, he decided to give it a try. In another training room, the female adventurer from earlier was still complaining. She just wanted to go home quickly. But when she checked her opponent, she was surprised. It was a Trapmaster. Meanwhile, Keiichiro remembered that there were only 5 S-rank adventurers in Japan. That meant even A-rankers were already some of the best. This fight was his first big challenge before he could catch up to the others. He looked at the list of vanguard roles and saw that fencers were known for their speed. He believed he could block their attacks, but hitting them back would be hard. Keiichiro entered the arena to face the same woman. Both of them were told to get ready. The woman remembered fighting Trapmasters before when she was still in the lower ranks, but no matter how high their levels got, she had never seen one in an A-rank exam. Still, it didn't bother her. She just needed to avoid the traps. The duel began and the woman attacked first. Keiichiro quickly set a trap. She noticed how basic his moves looked. It seemed like he was trying to fight normally just to lead her into the trap. She didn't take it seriously and teased him in her mind, thinking his weak arms couldn't make her fall for it. She hit Keiichiro with a strong blow and he felt the force. It was just as he feared. She was really powerful. Quietly, he placed an arrow symbol on his body. She was confused by this and asked what he was doing. If she triggered the trap, he would get caught too. But Keiichiro had more plans. He placed another arrow symbol under his feet. The woman was surprised. Keiichiro took this chance to rush forward. She tried to strike first, but Keiichiro used the symbol on his arm to push her to the side. The woman was shocked. She had been pushed right toward the trap. Keiichiro thought he had done a good job, but she quickly shouted at him not to underestimate her. She stepped on the trap, which triggered a burst of flames. But instead of getting caught, she jumped away at the last second. Keiichiro was stunned. She even said it was a close call. He couldn't believe she dodged the trap after setting it off. Even though she was a fencer, her speed and reflexes were incredible. Keiichiro realized that if she could escape traps that easily, setting more would be useless. The woman stopped attacking for a moment and raised her guard. She realized how annoying the arrow trap was and decided to attack Keiichiro from a spot where it wouldn't hit her. She jumped back to create some space and suddenly 2 guns appeared beside her as if out of nowhere. Keiichiro saw the guns right away and quickly used an arrow symbol to block the bullets, making them shoot upward. The woman was surprised that even attacks from far away didn't work on him. Keiichiro started to feel the pressure, but he knew he couldn't let the fight go on for too long. He decided to keep going. He then combined his arrow symbol and slash traps into one attack. The woman noticed right away that the traps were mixed together. She jumped and carefully dodged the slashes by moving through the gaps. She asked in frustration if Keiichiro was really a Trapmaster. Keiichiro was shocked that she managed to dodge it and began to wonder how fast and alert she really was. Keiichiro combined his arrow symbol with his flame traps and sent a burst of fire toward the woman, but she dodged it quickly. She figured out that Keiichiro used his arrow symbol to create different kinds of attacks by mixing his traps. She knew then that she had to change how she fought. She wasn't just facing a trap user, she was up against a wizard. She had fought many wizards before and knew how dangerous they could be. Suddenly, Keiichiro noticed the woman vanish. He looked around and realized she was above him. She summoned more rapiers out of thin air and sent them flying down at him. Keiichiro blocked with his arrow symbol and tried to use it again. But the woman said she wouldn't let him. She stabbed him in the shoulder, breaking through his defense. The rest of the rapiers hit him and he got hurt. He realized it had been a long time since someone pushed him this hard in close combat. The woman was faster, stronger, and had more energy than he did. The woman then said it was over and told Keiichiro to give up. But Keiichiro blocked her final strike. He said sorry and explained that he had to keep going so he could see his friends again. He believed he had just found an important clue. Now it was all or nothing for him.